All right, everyone, welcome back. I wanted to start a new series that I'm calling And Now for Something Horrible, which is kind of just a dive into random entomology topics or arthropod or malacology related topics that are interesting and kind of horrifying, because there's a lot of them, and it's kind of hard to fit these topics into specific broader subject matters unless you wanted to go into like very niche sort of areas. So I wanted to start this, and I figured I would start with my favorite thing to bring up to people that don't know anything about entomology, which is bedbug mating. Because not only does everyone hate these and kind of live in fear of bedbugs and having an infestation in your home, but they're truly disgusting creatures. So for those of you who are not familiar with bedbugs, these are true bugs belonging to the Hemiptera, and the family is Cymicidae. So this genus is called Cymex. And they are obligate blood feeders. They're here. You can see the Cymex. Here's its proboscis mouth, and it's feeding directly into the flesh, where it can suck out delicious, delicious blood. What's most interesting about this is that they aren't known to actually transmit any diseases, which is pretty surprising considering how much blood they feed on and how dense a population in someone's home can get. And that other blood-feeding insects of humans generally do transmit a lot of diseases. But these aren't known to transmit diseases, but they can generally take over, your home and your bedroom and everything else. They can reproduce into huge populations, and they're extremely difficult to get rid of because nowadays they're generally adapted to be immune to most pesticides. Once upon a time, the U.S. got rid of them via DDT, but since we don't use that anymore, it's really hard to get rid of them. So what is horrible and interesting about bedbugs is that for the cymicids, the females have normal reproductive tracts, but they don't use them, and the male doesn't use them. Instead, they have this horrible process called traumatic insemination, which is what is occurring here. Instead of mating with a female normally, the male bedbug uses his Aedeagus, which is the insect version of a penis, and in this case it's just functionally a spear, to pierce through her body wall and just have sex with her abdominal cavity. So he will ejaculate directly into her blood, and so the blood in insects is called hemolymph. And he will just directly, have sex with her body wall and ejaculate into her blood, and his sperm will then travel through her blood to her ovaries and fertilize the eggs there. Despite her having a fully functional and usable reproductive tract, she will use her reproductive tract to lay eggs, but it is not used by the male for mating. This process of traumatic insemination is generally considered extremely detrimental to the female. There are multiple kinds of invertebrates that do this, that there are adaptations that they have, but in the kind of general sense of uncontrolled traumatic insemination, it leaves a gaping wound in the side of the female, which is extremely difficult to heal. It generally exposes her to an enormous amount of disease, because not only is this a wound, but the male stuck his bacteria and fungi-ridden penis or Aedeagus into this wound directly into her bloodstream, causing massive infections. The presence of the sperm in the blood will cause sometimes catastrophic immune responses, in which the female will die just from her own immune system. And it's generally not a great thing to be happening to the female. So it's a wonder that this is the de facto way that bedbugs mate. So this happens in multiple invertebrates. Some bedbugs have no adaptations to this, in which case the male will just stick his Aedeagus spear-like penis into any part of the female body he can get into. In some species, the female does have an adaptation, and it's called a spermolege, and it's visible in this area right here. This, I don't know what you would call it, this white sort of section on her abdomen here. This is an internal organ. It's partially external, mostly internal, layered organ of sacs full of hemocytes, which are the insect equivalent of white blood cells. And for whatever reason, the male will specifically target this area when it is present, and he will have sex with this area. It still causes a gaping wound, but what is the hypothesis at the moment is that this acts as a barrier. All these white blood cells act as a barrier to infection. So he will still traumatically inseminate the female, but she won't be subjected to these catastrophic immune responses, bacterial and fungal infections, things like that. When this is not present, the male will just have sex with any part of her body. So this is kind of an adaptation to this horrible sort of natural occurrence. But yeah, so not only are they feeding on your blood, but they're tearing each other open to have sex with each other's blood when you have an infestation of these in your house. So the more you know. Thanks for sitting through this. Like and subscribe. It helps me out a lot. Talk to you later.